We start with politics this morning. The Labor Party headquarters is firing back at Dr Gaurav Sharma, who's quitting Parliament to force a bellwether by-election in Hamilton West. Sharma said he quit before the party gave him the boot, claiming the parliamentary wing was going to invoke the waka jumping legislation to get rid of him. He's with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So the Labor Party has put out a press statement last night saying basically you were wrong. They hadn't made a decision about whether to expel you yet. Do you accept that?
No.
Why not?
Well, they sent me the report that they wrote last week. After that, I met up with the New Zealand Council. It's like a 20-plus page report. It goes through all the allegations. The allegations just focus on the fact that I talked about bullying rather than the actual content of my messages.
Yeah, but that's all they're interested in, right? Because they're interested in whether you have broken the trust of the party, whether you've broken the rules in talking to the media. So did they tell you, did the report say that they were going to expel you?
The very first line at the top says that the recommendation to New Zealand Council is that Gaurav Sharma be expelled from the Labor Party.
OK, but it wasn't a final decision, which is the point they're making in this press statement last night.
Well, look,
do you have that document with you? Can we see it?
Unfortunately not, but I'm more than happy to
Will you provide that to us? Because it would show that, it would clearly show you say that they wrote that they would expel you.
Yeah, that's what the recommendation is.
And also the Prime Minister has said, rubbished your claims that they were going to invoke the waka jumping legislation.
Well, look, for the last 2 months, the Prime Minister has been saying a lot of things which don't stack up. And this whole story started with me requesting an independent investigation into claims of bullying, both claims that I'm saying somebody's bullied me or any of the staff members who've said that I've bullied them, which is really concerning because, you know, if parliamentary staff...
I totally understand. But I think we have canvassed these issues and I think the public really now wants to know what's happening with this. So the Prime Minister says that you didn't... they weren't going to invoke the waka jumping legislation, never even discussed it. Who told you they were?
Yeah, so there's, just going back a little bit, there's 4 steps to this. So the first one was suspension from the Labour caucus. Second one was the expulsion from the Labour caucus.
Yep, which didn't happen, but...
From the Labour caucus, expulsions happened.
Yes, but the party hasn't expelled you from the party.
And then the third one was this panel, which was looking at whether I should be removed or not. Their recommendation to the Governing Council was that I be removed. And New Zealand Council members, the Governing Council members, in confidence contacted me and said that the Prime Minister was going to invoke the waka jumping rule and it was going to be within 6 months of the general election because they don't want you sitting in Parliament asking questions right at the corner.
During a campaign. So you're saying that members of the New Zealand Council contacted you privately and told you that the Prime Minister was going to invoke the waka jumping legislation?
That's right. And
why would they do that?
Well, you know, it's the same reason why our members of the Labour Party talking to me and telling me that they've also been bullied, including ministers. I've repeatedly said that there are ministers in the Prime Minister's government who have said that they've been bullied as well. Yeah.
Wait, there are ministers who said they've been bullied?
Yeah. That's what I said last time as well.
The thing is, you haven't presented much in the way of evidence of this stuff. I mean, why didn't you record? Can you tell us which New Zealand Council members told you that the Prime Minister was going to invoke the waka jumping legislation?
I mean, look at what's happened to me in the last 2 months. These people don't want to come forward. You know, they told me this in confidence, giving me advice on...
How many of them, of the New Zealand Council?
2 people.
2 members of the New Zealand Council, which is the council that rules the Labour Party...
That's right. It's got 24 people on it.
...told you... about a private view of the Prime Minister to do with waka jumping legislation.
That's right.
She's denied it. You're saying she's lying.
Yeah.
OK. All right. This is going to be very costly for taxpayers. Are you sure this is what the road you want to go down?
Well, look, it's either that or I'll be removed sometime in February or whenever, 6 months before the election, and then we get into this stance where Hamilton West has absolutely no member of Parliament, no voice in Parliament at all. And that's what's been happening throughout. Like, you know, they're trying to silence me this whole time for the last 2 months. And what I'm saying is, let's have an election, and if people choose even a Labour candidate to become a member of Parliament, that's all fine. But my concern is for the constituents of Hamilton West.
OK. Is it possible, can we come to some agreement? On behalf of taxpayers, I'm going to put an idea to you, all right? Because they're saying we didn't make a final decision about expelling him from the party, and the Prime Minister says we weren't going to invoke waka jumping. So if we can get the party and the Prime Minister to agree and put in writing and have a lawyer write it down that they won't invoke the waka jumping legislation, that you will stay on as an MP until the election. Will you do that? Will you stay on and pull back from this by-election and save taxpayers $1.2 million during a cost of living crisis?
So I'm just going to make 3 points. So the first one is that my resignation was from midnight yesterday, so that's already happened.
I'm sure you could undo it.
No, so what I was told was, after it's done, you can't take it back. The second point is this is the same Prime Minister who said there wasn't going to be predetermination at my suspension meeting and had called a predetermined meeting the night before. And the third point I'm going to say is, Labour's motto is do as we say, don't do as we do, because they had Paul Eagle, who's a sitting member of Parliament, running for mayoralty in Wellington, and the Prime Minister was going around endorsing this guy.
That is true. They were willing to swallow the by-election for him.
Exactly.
Very quickly before we go then, you've got a contest on your hands in the near future for Hamilton West, and Tim McIndoe is the national candidate who was actually the MP for 4 terms right before you took the seat off him. What do you think of him? He's obviously going to be running a pretty strong campaign, and they'll be wanting to have a bit of a red bloodbath. My
understanding is he hasn't been chosen as a candidate yet, so there are still other people in the running.
Right.
But he's a really nice guy. I've said that to him. We both get along really well. So, we've got mutual respect for each other, so it'll just be a clean campaign.
Who do you reckon the Labour Party will pick?
I have no idea.
All right, good.
Not Gaurav Sharma.
No. Clearly not.
No.
Not anymore. Hey, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
It's just gone 13 minutes after 6. That's resigning MP Dr. Gaurav Sharma.